Get ready because another Starship launch is just around the corner. Yes, everything is ramping up once again, and Flight 9 is already being hinted at through new dates and activity. Ship 35 is moving through its unique and somewhat unusual testing campaign, and there's a lot going on at Starbase. Wait, what's that being installed now? Oh yes, just this massive structure you won't believe. There's so much happening, from SpaceX developments to FAA and city notices, and even exciting updates from Rocket Lab. And yes, we'll talk about the budget situation, the elephant in the room. Let's dive into it all. Starting with Ship 35, which is believed to have experienced an engine issue during its 6-engine static fire test last week. Following the event, it was quickly rolled back into Mega Bay 2, likely for detailed inspections and a possible engine swap. On Sunday, a delivery truck arrived carrying a single Raptor vacuum engine. That was unusual. Normally these engines come in sets of 3. But considering the static fire was done 2 days prior, that timeline makes sense. Initial inspections probably revealed the issue, prompting a quick replacement shipment from McGregor, SpaceX's engine storage and test facility. There's been a lot of speculation online about what exactly happened during that static fire. But so far no official details have been shared. Since we only saw a single engine being delivered, many believe the damage was isolated to that one engine alone. That seems likely. A Raptor vacuum engine installation cart was seen leaving the Mega Bay shortly afterward, suggesting that the new engine was already being installed. Most signs point to this being for Ship 35, especially since Ship 36 just returned from cryogenic testing. All focus now is on 35 as we get closer to the long-awaited Flight 9. Now let's talk about launch windows, because this week we finally started seeing some official notices come in. Early in the week, a navigational warning was issued for the Indian Ocean. The area marked is the same we've seen before and matches the usual Starship re-entry zone. That's a big deal. The first launch window mentioned was for the evening of May 8th, and interestingly, that notice was probably filed even before Ship 35's recent static fire. As inspections progress and plans become clearer, everything seems to be lining up again for another big launch. As we moved through the week, another local notice came in for mariners, this one starting from May 20th. Keep in mind though, these notices are just early indicators, they're part of the planning process and don't guarantee anything yet. But we're watching every update closely. If everything goes well and Ship 35 meets all its remaining milestones, the next launch window should offer a clear daytime view of re-entry, just like in previous flights. That means if you're watching from the right part of the world, especially west of Australia, you're in for an awesome visual spectacle. So how are things going over at the production site? Well, fast and furious as always. The wedge-shaped section of the Star Factory is being demolished at lightning speed. Large glass panels are being pulled out with taglines and excavators, and manual removal is underway right along Highway 4. That whole area, everything in front of the new internal wall with the big access door, is being cleared out. By Wednesday, only a single strip of glass and some roof cladding remained. SpaceX clearly wants this space freed up, and when you see it from above, it makes total sense. From aerial views, it's easy to see how far that wedge-shaped extension pushed into the ring yard. With Gigabay potentially expanding deep into that area, much more than the High Bay or Mega Bay, they need all the space they can get. There's a good chance they're planning a dedicated entrance for Gigabay, similar to what we've seen for Mega Bay 2. At the same time, demolition work on the High Bay is progressing too. More structural segments are being lifted away, and at times, it looks almost precarious as huge pieces wobble mid-air. But SpaceX isn't slowing down, they're tearing into these changes with full force. Here's something else that caught our attention. A brand new barrel section was spotted right outside the Star Factory. Later, a 6-point load spreader picked it up and rotated it for positioning. And guess what? It looks like a development version of a ship aft barrel section. You can clearly see large cone-like structures attached to it. We believe this might be the first hardware designed to support orbital docking between two starships, one acting as a propellant depot. That's a huge deal. If so, this would be the beginning of something we've all been waiting for, in-orbit refueling. So what would that docking system look like? Well, we suspect it will involve a completely reworked quick disconnect mechanism that allows propellant transfer between two ships. If confirmed, this is a huge milestone. It's something many have been anticipating for years. However, for now, that test article was eventually moved to the scrapyard. Its purpose, it seems, was fulfilled. Perhaps it served as a first pathfinder for design validation. Of course, the final design will evolve quickly, but it's incredibly exciting to finally see physical hardware emerging for next-gen Starship systems and orbital refueling missions. More progress came late in the week when another section for Ship 38 was moved into Mega Bay 2. This time, it was the common dome section which separates methane from oxygen inside the rocket. And unlike recent builds, this one already had a significant number of heat shield tiles pre-installed. That's a great sign. It could mean SpaceX is aiming to streamline production and reduce turnaround times. Meanwhile, over at the Star Factory, Test Tank 17 also rolled out. This tank is likely a structural verification article, designed to test the next-gen booster aft structure and the liquid oxygen header tank integrity. After spending time inside the factory, Test Tank 17 came out with additional internal hardware, especially within 5 circular holes we saw earlier. These likely allow access to the downcomer inside the tank. When you zoom in on this setup, you'll notice a central rod flanked by 2 holes on each side. That perfectly matches the layout of actuators inside the new structural test rig at Massey's test site. So it looks like everything's being lined up for serious testing of new hardware. That kind of precision means SpaceX is moving ahead at full pace with their booster upgrades. But perhaps the biggest news this week was over at Pad B's launch mount. Early in the week, we saw more and more scaffolding being stripped away from around the mount structure. That's usually a clear signal that something big is coming. Sure enough, they were prepping to roll out this absolute monster of a launch mount. Teams even painted much of the structure to prepare it for its next phase. Once the ground at the launch site entrance was leveled, it was time to move this behemoth, and that's when things really got interesting. One of the big questions that's been floating around for a while is, just how heavy is this massive structure? Ryan Hansen took on the challenge of finding out. After weeks of detailed modeling and calculations, he estimated that the structure currently weighs at least 1,100 tons. And keep in mind, it's not even finished yet. Once all the hold-down arms and remaining components are installed, Ryan believes it could weigh over 1,600 tons. That's absolutely mind-blowing. If you're curious to see the full breakdown of his work, check out his thread. We've linked it in the description below. As for the actual move to the launch site, it wasn't exactly smooth sailing. The sheer weight of this thing caused the ground to give way under a few of the transporter wheels. The crew probably could have used a bit more steel sheeting to stabilize the path. But despite that hiccup, it wasn't a major issue. Eventually, the structure was slowly and carefully maneuvered into position at the new launch mount site. Watching it inch forward under that incredible load was an impressive sight, and a clear sign that the pace at Starbase is only accelerating. Both of the massive cranes are now fully rigged up with the load spreaders, and from the looks of it, they're getting ready to lift the mount onto its final fixture using only the 4 clamps that are already installed. It's a bold move, but it seems well calculated. Once this launch mount is secured into place, we can expect to see it undergo a whole lot more upgrades. There's a large number of components still waiting to be installed. Among them are the 16 remaining hold-down clamps, many of which have already been delivered and are just waiting at the Sanchez site. When it's all said and done, we'll also see full awnings stretching across the sides of the structure. So yes, there's a lot more to come in terms of final detailing and safety features. One thing people have been curious about is the deluge system that's supposed to be installed underneath this mount. Well, we've got updates on that front too. Crews have been seen working on the installation of the remaining deluge pipes. It's a bit of a tight fit down there, and interestingly, the openings left for the pipes aren't exactly the same diameter as the actual pipes themselves. To deal with that, the team is now adding smaller pipes on either side to fill the gaps, ensuring a snug fit. These auxiliary pipes should be connected to the main water deluge supply system and will have holes drilled in them to further help disperse water during launches. It's all about protecting the structure from that insane heat and force. At the same time, the crew is pouring concrete to fill the walls on either side of the trench now that most of the core assembly is done. With that, the gap between the wall and the sheet piling is also being filled in. This means the structure is becoming incredibly robust. Exactly what's needed to endure the intense pressure and vibrations of a super heavy launch. Meanwhile, we've got some pretty major news about Starbase overall. Several parallel projects are in motion that will massively boost the number of people who can live and work in the area. More people means more workers for SpaceX, which in turn accelerates everything. Back in December, SpaceX formally petitioned to incorporate Starbase, Texas as an official city, a move that would give them much more control over local governance and development. That would allow them to push infrastructure forward faster and attract new residents and employees more easily. Well, over the weekend, something big happened. An actual election took place to decide whether Starbase would become an official city. And get this, The voter turnout was an impressive 77%. Out of 218 total votes, 212 voted in favor of incorporation. Only 6 people opposed it. So, it's official now, Starbase is becoming a real city in Cameron County, Texas. A brand new X account has even appeared to start sharing updates from the new city government. One of the first announcements? They're already working with various agencies to assign a zip code to the area. That might seem like a small step, but it's a big deal in terms of infrastructure and city planning. With that formality handled, attention is now turning toward building housing developments and ramping up utility services. In fact, we've already seen foundations being laid out for a new development called Starbase West, located just north of Meme Street. The size of the land parcel being used there is quite large, so it should allow for a significant number of housing units for workers. Not only that, but another development is also underway between Massey's and the production site, another location that promises to offer much-needed space for new workers. It's honestly mind-blowing to look back and realize that just in 2019, this whole area was essentially a tent and a dusty pad under construction. Now, they're on the verge of operating 2 full-scale launch pads, they've got a massive production and testing complex, and now it's even a legally recognized city. The speed of progress here is almost unreal. A huge shout-out goes to RGV Aerial Photography. Their consistent updates over the years have been phenomenal. Their footage has allowed all of us to watch this transformation unfold step by step. If you haven't already, it's definitely worth supporting the RGV team. They've been doing incredible work for a long time. And of course, thanks for being subscribed right here as well. Your support means everything. Now, switching gears to something else that dropped on Tuesday, the FAA has just released the final tiered environmental assessment regarding SpaceX's proposal to significantly ramp up their launch cadence at Starbase. We'll dive back into that in a second, but first, a quick word from today's sponsor. Big thanks to Surfshark VPN for supporting today's video. In our connected world, having secure access to the internet wherever you are is more important than ever. Your personal information is constantly at risk, and tracking is becoming more intrusive by the day. That's where Surfshark VPN steps in. They encrypt your online traffic, keeping your personal data safe from ISPs, advertisers, and even hackers. Want to watch geo-restricted content? No problem. Surfshark's 200-plus servers in 100 countries let you bypass those barriers effortlessly. Best of all, you can use Surfshark on unlimited devices with just one subscription. Whether it's your phone, laptop, tablet, or even your smart TV, Surfshark's got you covered. It also comes packed with features like Clean Web, which blocks ads, trackers, malware, and phishing attempts before they can even load. That means faster browsing and no annoying pop-ups. I've honestly been shocked at how many trackers are running on regular news sites alone. Plus, Surfshark has a strict no-logs policy. They don't track or store your activity. And since their servers run entirely on RAM, all data gets wiped clean after every reboot. You can try it risk-free with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Head over to surfshark.com/Marcus or use the promo code MARCUS at checkout for 4 extra months free. Or just scan the QR code on the screen. Thanks again to Surfshark. Now let's get back to that FAA release. The final tiered environmental assessment covers every possible environmental impact, from vegetation and wildlife to emissions, noise, and light pollution. SpaceX's proposal, as outlined in the draft version, seeks to increase the number of allowed launches from Starbase to 25 per year. Of those, 22 would take place during daytime, with the remaining 3 allocated for nighttime launches. Keep in mind, this is just the maximum permitted number. It doesn't necessarily mean they'll hit those figures right away, but it's a significant step forward in terms of long-term plans. Since full reusability is the end goal, this also includes up to 25 landings annually, covering both the booster and the Starship upper stage. To hit these numbers, Pad B will need to come online as soon as possible. So when can we expect that? According to this document, SpaceX is still aiming to begin launches from Pad B in 2025. That's ambitious, maybe even overly optimistic. They also reiterated the plan for Starship to begin launching from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center in fall 2025. But let's be honest, timelines often shift. SpaceX's last official statement said late 2025. But considering the groundwork at LC-39's trench is only just beginning, getting it all done and ready for a full launch this year feels like a massive challenge. Still, the most eye-catching figure in this new update is this. SpaceX is proposing to ramp up Starship Super Heavy launches to an incredible 145 flights per year. That includes the 25 from Starbase and 44 from LC-39A. But here's the real kicker. 76 launches are proposed to take place from a yet-to-be-confirmed site at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. In previous updates, SpaceX mentioned interest in Space Launch Complex 37, the former Delta IV pad, which isn't currently leased to any other company. They've obtained limited rights of entry to carry out environmental assessments. Given the ambitious frequency, it's likely that they'll either convert SLC-37 into a dual-pad site or perhaps even identify another suitable location along the Space Coast. Whatever the case, the trajectory of this program is nothing short of thrilling. Now, regarding the hot staging system currently used on Super Heavy, SpaceX has often said that the detachable hot stage ring is a temporary measure. According to the new data, they aim to eliminate that component entirely by 2026. That provides a solid indicator for when we might expect Block 2 boosters to begin regular flight operations. Even more interesting is their projection that the Starship system will be fully reusable by 2030. Of course, the definition of fully reusable can be a bit fuzzy. Does that mean rapid turnaround with minimal refurbishment? Or complete reuse for dozens of flights? We don't know yet, and honestly, SpaceX probably doesn't either. There's still a ton of engineering and flight experience to gather before that goal becomes reality. But regardless, these FAA documents are packed with fascinating insights. And best of all, they've issued a mitigated finding of no significant impact. That's huge. It means the FAA believes that, with a few precautions, the proposed plans won't harm the environment in any significant way. There are still some conditions attached, like keeping the agency informed about deluge system activations and proposed licensing changes, but that's all fairly manageable. Finally, a quick note before we wrap up. We've also got a fun update from Rocket Lab. Their work on the Neutron rocket continues, and we've got some visuals now showing the top of Stage 1. It includes that unique Hungry Hippo-style fairing design paired with an extended interstage. The hardware looks solid and their progress is steady. There's a lot more to cover on that and we'll be diving into it very soon. But for now, it's safe to say the pace of innovation in the space industry, whether it's SpaceX or Rocket Lab, has never been more exciting. The canard control system was also demonstrated during these latest tests, which is great news. Seeing them move forward with Stage 1 qualification testing means we're getting even closer to this launch vehicle's debut. Once these tests are complete, the hardware will be transported to the East Coast, where it will be integrated with the rest of the Neutron rocket. Honestly, I find all of these technical updates incredibly exciting. This medium-lift, partially reusable launch vehicle is going to offer a fresh alternative for commercial and governmental satellite launches, especially for those who don't need the ultra-heavy lift capacity of Starship. Starship, of course, will dominate the super-heavy lift category, but not every mission needs that scale. Neutron is being built to fill that important middle ground. With a payload capability of around 13 metric tons to low Earth orbit, it's a cost-effective solution for many space customers. And it plays a critical role in Rocket Lab's long-term plans, particularly their ambition to deploy their own spacecraft and large constellations in the future. They are still aiming for Neutron's first launch to take place in the second half of this year, and if everything stays on track, that milestone could be just months away. Switching gears now to NASA's Psyche mission, the spacecraft is currently more than 150 million miles away on its journey to the metal-rich asteroid known as 16 Psyche. NASA recently released an update revealing that the spacecraft temporarily shut down its plasma propulsion system. The issue occurred due to a drop in fuel line pressure. This was first detected on April 1 when onboard sensors noticed a decrease in pressure from 36 psi to 26 psi, specifically in the line supplying fuel to the thrusters. While concerning, NASA says the situation is under control and doesn't pose any immediate risk. Mission engineers decided to pause the use of the thrusters while they carefully review the data and analyze the cause of the pressure drop. Fortunately, they have some breathing room. They can delay resuming propulsion until at least June without it affecting the spacecraft's trajectory. If needed, there's a backup fuel line available, and NASA may opt to use that instead. Next year, in May, the Psyche spacecraft will perform a gravity assist maneuver around Mars. That slingshot will redirect it toward the main asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. So, as long as that timing works out, everything should proceed according to plan. Back to launches closer to home now. SpaceX had its usual busy Starlink schedule, but also made history with some new records. First up, Starlink Group 6 to 84 launched early Sunday morning from Launch Complex 39A. Booster 1078 lifted off carrying 29 of the newer version 2 mini satellites. What's significant here is that this is the first time we've seen 29 of these satellites launched together. Up until now the record was 28. It looks like 29 is the absolute maximum that Falcon 9 can accommodate. The mission went smoothly, and Booster 1078 stuck the landing for the 20th time on the drone ship a shortfall of gravitas. Then on Tuesday evening, Starlink Group 6 to 93 took to the skies. This mission launched from Space Launch Complex 40 with Booster 1085 doing the heavy lifting. It carried another 28 satellites into orbit. This time, the landing was handled by just read the instructions, which marked its 7th successful booster recovery for this particular rocket. These launches may seem routine now, but the efficiency and consistency SpaceX continues to demonstrate is still mind-blowing. They're setting records, pushing hardware limits, and perfecting the rhythm of rapid, reliable space access. But what I'm most excited about is the next one. This mission happened less than 24 hours ago and was truly special. If your eyes lit up watching it, you weren't alone. X, formerly Twitter, has now started supporting 4K video, and SpaceX took full advantage of that for this latest broadcast. This is the first time we've seen a SpaceX livestream in 4K in over 600 days, nearly 1 year and 8 months. That's a long wait, but the result was worth it. The clarity was stunning. Booster 1081 launched carrying 26 satellites on the Group 15-3 mission Friday afternoon, and it was a beautiful daytime launch. It's always great to get a daytime launch for these high-resolution streams, and this one didn't disappoint. On top of that, SpaceX wasn't done. Just a few hours after that launch, they squeezed in yet another mission, Group 6 to 91. This flight was historic for a different reason. It marked the first time a Falcon 9 fairing half had been flown on its 30th mission. That's right, 30 reuses. This sets a new benchmark for reusability in orbital hardware. Booster 1083 handled the launch, and it made its 11th successful landing back on a shortfall of gravitas. That's 4 successful Starlink missions in just 1 week. And finally, let's talk about what everyone's been quietly watching, the future of NASA itself. The new U.S. administration just released a summary of its proposed budget for the 2026 fiscal year. While nothing is finalized yet and Congress will still have its say, the preliminary numbers paint a challenging picture. NASA is looking at major cuts, about 25% overall, which translates to more than $6 billion. What's even more troubling is that the science division might see nearly half its funding slashed. That could severely impact planetary science, climate research, and astrophysics missions across the board. The only major area seeing a funding increase is human space exploration. That part of NASA's budget is being boosted by over $650 million. Within that, $7 billion is allocated for lunar exploration and an additional $1 billion earmarked specifically for Mars-related programs. But this boost comes at a cost. Earth science, robotic missions, even the SLS Space Launch System program, all face budget tightening. The International Space Station isn't spared either. The proposed budget suggests reducing crew sizes, scaling back research activities on board, and even cutting down the number of supply and crew transport missions to the station. The idea seems to be to shift focus and resources toward lunar and Martian exploration programs. But that raises some big questions. What happens to commercial spacecraft like Starliner and Dream Chaser if the ISS program is scaled down? Will commercial space stations be ready in time to provide uninterrupted access to low Earth orbit? These are the kinds of transitions that could easily leave a gap in human presence in space. And that leads us to the current speculation about leadership changes. Jared Isaacman is now almost certain to become the new NASA administrator. It still needs Senate approval, but that seems like just a formality now. Under his leadership, NASA is expected to stay the course with Artemis 2 and 3, and continue supporting the Commercial Lunar Payload Services program. But the big change lies beyond that. The administration wants to overhaul the Artemis campaign into a more sustainable and cost-effective model. This includes retiring the Space Launch System and Orion spacecraft after Artemis 3. Instead, they want to shift entirely to next-gen commercial systems for future lunar missions. There's even talk of ending the Lunar Gateway program altogether, with its existing components possibly repurposed for other uses. Again, these are only proposals for now, but they signal a massive shift in NASA's direction. And just recently, another issue cropped up. NASA had to replace one of the RS-25 main engines slated for the Artemis 2 mission. This was due to a hydraulic leak, and what makes it noteworthy is that it's the first time a core engine swap has been required for the SLS. Engineers managed to complete the replacement while the rocket stood vertically inside the vehicle assembly building at Kennedy Space Center. It's a small but symbolic hiccup for a program that might not be around much longer. As always, we'll keep watching closely as these developments unfold, and hopefully we'll see the stars align for a brighter path forward.